must realize that these results indicated accurately the composition of the wider electorate and its diversity in terms of ethnic and socio-political interests. Falling short of a clear majority, the United National Party then, under the visionary leadership of D.S. Senanayake, formed a government with the All Ceylon Tamil Congress. Then immediately thereafter in 1948, when the new government moved in to disenfranchise the plantation workers of Indian origin, that created a deep fissure in Tamil politics, with the late S.J.V. Chelvanayagam forming the Federal Party. Rest is history, Mr. Speaker, and we have witnessed how those fault lines created, I must say, not so much by the fact that the plantation workers were Tamils, but because they constituted an organized trade union movement that supported the left parties in the first elections. Those historical aberrations were corrected after decades of struggle and conflict. What it tells us is that a move to preserve the interests of the propertied classes who frowned on organized labor as a threat to their economic interests later acquired an ethno-religious character that undermined the ethnic and religious harmony that existed for centuries in this country. We must move away from repeating mistakes after mistakes that would warrant correction and would subject communities to further distress when their voices are not heard or further suppressed. Mr. Speaker, we're also discussing electoral reforms. When discussing electoral reforms, whatever reforms we bring must be based on principles of equity and fairness. We're looking at a mixed model of elections. And we have witnessed in the past few weeks heated debate within the well of this House and outside this House, within the committee chaired by the Prime Minister guiding the constitutional process, the steering committee. There are accusations from outside that there is a collateral purpose in bringing new legislation. We had to reflect on all these allegations and also ensure that the provincial council elections that have been denied to certain provinces would not be unnecessarily and unduly delayed. It is our responsibility to ensure that we have periodic elections and we test the will of the people and be courageous enough to face the verdict of the people. With those comments, Mr. Speaker, may I also finally say that this House has succeeded in bringing groundbreaking legislation during these sessions. The Right to Information Act, as well as some other legislations which are on the pipeline. I came directly from a cabinet subcommittee that is examining the National Audit Bill, which is one of those other important pieces of legislation that we have pledged to introduce in the House. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, much awaits us in this August Assembly before we complete our term. Let me take this opportunity to wish all those who have come to witness this solemn occasion all the very best, and also let us extend our hands of friendship to those deprived communities outside, that we will ensure that these democratic traditions that have been enshrined through the valued traditions in this House will be properly safeguarded for posterity and forever. Thank you.